I don't want to take a whole lot of time because we need the time for Steve. But it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce my longtime friend, and I'll tell you, one of the people in a small handful in this world who have taught me more about Islam, Jihad, Sharia, the Muslim Brotherhood than anybody else in the world. Small handful, and he's at the top of that list.
Yes.
So Steve began, I guess the military came first, didn't it? And he was a military officer in the army, a Russian linguist. Then he went into the private sector as a lawyer, patent and copyright lawyer. And he was sent on a trip, right, to Pakistan, and to look up the law. Now, Pakistan, English language, he could look up the books, the materials. And he went and he bought some books on law in Pakistan, pursuing this patents and copyright issue, whatever it was. And he brings them home, and he reads them, and says, wait a minute, I got all the wrong books. These are all the radical books. I need to get some other books. And so then the next trip, I guess, or after that, you go to London, right? And he's in London, and he goes to some bookstores and picks up some more books on Islamic law. Takes them home and reads them. I don't know, I've done it again. I got all the radical ones. This can't be. What's going on? Finally, he realizes these aren't radical. This is what Islam is. These are the genuine books of Islamic law of Sharia. This is what it is. And fast forward just a little bit to 9/11, and he is recalled to duty to the Pentagon. And there, as he has now learned, and I don't know how many thousands of dollars you spend on books, but it's thousands, right? Thousands of dollars spent on books, self-taught, and he is now in much demand at the Pentagon in the aftermath of 9/11 to brief and teach on who these people were that attacked us. And so he briefs the Joint Chiefs. He is briefing the top levels of Pentagon officials. He's at the Army War College. He's at the FBI, all over, teaching about Islamic law. And it was super well received. It was in demand, in much demand, because nobody else could match his knowledge and his understanding of Islamic law. But as things went on, and as happened in probably every branch of the U.S. government, to include also the intelligence community, Muslim brothers infiltrated. This preceded 9/11 by quite a bit, but by the time the George W. Bush administration came into office, it was rampant. It was they had expanded their presence throughout every branch of government and all of our top national security agencies. And so Steve, at one point, is on contract working for the Undersecretary of Defense, at that time, Gordon England. And Gordon England had also there working an actual Muslim brother, Hashim Islam, a brother from Egypt, actually from Egypt, a Muslim brother working for the Undersecretary of Defense. And he maligned Steve's name to his boss, to Gordon England, and Steve's contract was not removed. I'm skipping a whole bunch of stuff because he's going to fill you in on more of it, and I don't want to take more of his time. But let me just add to Seville's question, that quiz question, that when he was giving these briefings, and a lot of it became videotaped, you can find a lot of this online on YouTube videos, but the brief became known as the Red Pill Brief. Why? Because there's this movie called The Matrix, and in the movie, the character offers, I never saw the movie, but offers, I guess, the other character a choice of a red pill and a blue pill. The character takes the blue pill. He remains ignorant. He goes on in blissful ignorance as he was, never knowing anything more. But he's blissful because he's, uninformed. Or he could take the red pill, and the red pill then would open up knowledge, understanding, and a lot more grief, but awareness. Red pill, blue pill. So his briefing is the red pill. I said that a lot of his lectures wound up on video and on YouTube where you can find them. What happened at the Center for Security Policy where I work is that we eventually took a lot of those video talks and had them transcribed into chapters. That's what this is, this magnum opus. Do not drop it on your foot. It is called Catastrophic Failure, Blindfolding America in the Face of Jihad. Catastrophic Failure. This follows on his masterful, if I might say, master's thesis called To Our Great Detriment, which was the first paper, I mean really paper that he had published about jihad. This then became the compilation of so many of his lectures. And I'm really glad we got it out when we did, which was some years ago now. But Catastrophic Failure is really his magnum opus. It takes a long time to read, but this is must reading. It really is for where we are today.
It's called what again?
Catastrophic Failure.
Okay, you know, I think it, yeah.
You'll
Did
find
anybody
it.
bring their
on
book?
Amazon?
It is on Amazon.
Yeah.
It is. Okay, I'll conclude here by just saying that more recently now, Steve has founded his own group, which is called Unconstrained Analytics, and unconstrainedanalytics.com, right? Or unconstrainedanalytics.org. And at that website are many of his more recent papers where he and some of the colleagues working with him are doing deep dives into the combined Marxist, communist, and Islamic assault on our government and our society. So with that, Steve Coughlin.
Bill, thank you very much. Claire, thank you. Hal, thanks for all your help getting stuff.
You're welcome.
We're going to videotape this. If we get to where I say we have to turn the camera off for certain comments, we do that. Because I can go X-rated on this if you need to. And she knows I can go X-rated.
Let's go X-rated.
We may be conservative, but we're still
The
Okay.
camera has to be on.
Okay.
And someone has to put the twister.
Well, we got a couple. We have a couple of youngsters here too now.
So, apologies. But, so,
14.
what I'm going to brief to you today is about stuff about what the Brotherhood's doing recently, but I want to put it in a context. It was brought up that I was in Russian language qualified. I started off in my early 20s in the infantry, and some people gave away the names of all our Russian assets, and they got shot. And they went around and forced everybody to take the D-Lab, Defense Language Aptitude Battery.
Now, what year was that when the infantry?
83.
83.
Okay, so I'm showing my age. Okay,
Okay. I
so anybody who passed the D-Lab was sent to the Presidio of Monterey to learn Russian. And I went to my wife and I said, you know, they really want me to learn Russian. I was back in the reserve at the time, so it was a little strange. They wanted us to go do it. And she was a civilian, and I'm in the infantry and doing whatever we're doing. And they said, but you know, they'll let wives go too and sit in the classes. The idea being if you go home and your wife isn't invested in it, you know, you might not do the work. So she thought, well, let's think about that. Now, she grew up on a farm in rural Minnesota and never left the state. I'm not from Minnesota, but that's where I was living. And I think the more she thought about it, she said, you know, I think the thing about moving to Presidio, Monterey, California is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But if they're going to do it, they might as well pay me. So she went and took the D-Lab. She passed it. They sent her into basic training, and we both went and we learned Russian. Wow. Well, there it is. I'm going to college, and I'm ready to have I have a super big profile of what I did. I was almost a professional student in my 20s, getting ready to graduate in Russian area studies. I'm now a commissioned officer in military intelligence, and the Cold War ends. And I just said, you know, that just, you know, I won't say. So anyhow, the long and short of it is, I literally have boxes of Lenin's complete works. I put them in the boxes and put them in the basement. And I will tell you, those boxes are back out right now.
I bet they are.
Yeah.
I bet they are.
Those boxes are back out right now. I'm gonna tell you this. They are not ultra-liberal. They are not progressive.
Right.
They are Marxists. And as long as you're not talking about Marxism, you're not talking about the left. Why is that important to this brief? I'll tell you why. Because there is a real alliance between the Islamic movement, and what does the Muslim Brotherhood say? They are the leaders of the Islamic movement in North America, okay? There is an actual alliance between the Islamic movement and the neo-Marxist left. Political correctness is the enforcement mechanism to the postmodern narrative that executes Marxism. At all times. Why don't they go after left when they do that? Because the job isn't to go after the left, the job is to go after you. So I'll just bring this up because it's important to me to understand that the Islamic law does what it does. It drives decision making inside the Islamic community, how they make a decision. It's really important that when they penetrated into the West, they adopted. They became what's called joined a united front. Now you have to go back to the old language of Marxism, united front operations. They joined a united front with the neo-Marxist left, okay? And that is the leadership of the Democratic Party. So I wrote this paper, which it's actually technically only a paper.
Yeah, it's a.
Okay, and it's called Re-Remembering the Misremembered Left, and it's asking people to stop talking about the left the way the left lets you talk about it. Because the way you talk about the left guarantees you will lose. Okay? And in fact, the very fact that you get pushed back by even saying Marxism tells you how strong that is. And I'll tell you who is the most averse to that. Establishment Republicans.
Yep.
Why? This book explains what Marxism really is, and it raises the proposition, why doesn't the neo-Marxist left care anything about establishment Republicans, and yet they are terrified of Donald Trump. Donald Trump's not a conservative.
Correct.
When you get into arguments with people, Donald Trump's not a true conservative. He never said he was a true conservative.
right.
He never said he was conservative. Okay? Why are they terrified? Why? Because this does a political warfare analysis of the left, and political warfare is the, don't think I'm talking about how Democrats fight the trenches with Republicans. Political warfare is the Maoist insurgency model. And the left in America in 1970s adopted the Maoist insurgency model. A lot of people will say Gramsci said, long march to the institutions. He did not. His protege in 1968 in Germany said, we will do the long march. And he was doing it as an homage to Mao, who did the long march. So if you're not understanding the left that way, it's not just that we have to re-remember it, we have to understand it is misremembered. And it's deliberately misremembered, and so long as you're talking the way Washington wants to talk about it, you will lose your country. And here is the bottom line. You have to understand what splinter movements are, splinter movement theory, that the main actor is the nonviolent actor who creates violent splinters that make them moderate. Okay? That is the Muslim Brotherhood. They are the main actors. Al-Qaeda, ISIS are the splinters. Okay? And what did they do to President Bush? If you talk to us, we can maybe stop the terrorism. What did President Bush do in 2005? He brought in the Muslim Brotherhood. That is the year we lost the war on terror. That is the year it was lost. And you could tell me everything you want to get on Obama for, 95% of it was already locked in when Bush left office. I was there. Okay? And you have to deal with that. Because it goes to this. For the left, the defeat mechanism of the left today are established Republicans because they are the controlled opposition. You ever heard that phrase before?
Yes.
And here's how it works. And it's going to tie into this briefing. Okay? Here's how it works. If I could get you to use my language to talk about your ideals, you're going to execute my mission. So if I get you, who just got elected as a Tea Party person, 2 times they overran Congress on elections. The first thing they do when they take the oath of office is they go on a Republican retreat, and the Republican leadership says, you will no longer do this Tea Party stuff, or we'll kick your ass out. And everybody knows that happened. Everybody knows that happened. How many people watch Fox News? You have Luntz's Words That Work. Right? Words that work in what? The prevailing cultural narrative, which is political correctness, which is the execution mechanism for the Marxist narratives. So once they get Republicans to use the neo-Marxist language to explain their ideas, they're a controlled opposition. From that point forward, they'll be more afraid of being called a racist, sexist, or homophobe than they will of supporting and defending the Constitution.
Wow.
And that means your main battle is not Pelosi, it's what those Republicans in the Senate are trying to do behind the scenes. Because you're looking at something. I don't know if everybody watches this. I'm not trying to be political. I want a 501c3, but I'm an American citizen. And I don't care what you think about Trump. There's no crime. There's no crime. This has never happened in American history. So what has to have happened for it to get this far? You had to have Republicans in this House allow the Democrats to do a star chamber. A star chamber, which the Constitution was written to keep from ever happening. No witnesses, no right to appeal to your witnesses, no right to appeal to your accuser, no right to present a defense. They sat back and they let that happen. They are the defeat mechanism that the left depends for you to lose everything. Are your kids being terrorized on college campuses for racism, sexism, all that? Are they? Are the Republicans allowing the counter-state, the counter-state to take hold of the colleges and indoctrinate your children? What are they doing about that? What are they doing about the direct attack on your First Amendment in the form of being deplatformed as the cultural thing? They're doing nothing. And yet that's the main attack of the neo-Marxist left. The main attack. And what happened is the Brotherhood in 1989, they looked at it and they said, you know, we see that the left is going to take down America. We see that the left is going to take down Europe. Okay? So they have this cool thing. They created this word racism, sexism, homophobia. We'll just put Islamophobia in there and we'll get the left to enforce 90% of what we need to have happen. Because we don't have any power in America in the 1980s and 90s. Okay? That's what we'll do. So what it does is it addresses why. First, the way you talk about the left today is the way the left lets you talk about it. And if you don't have people attacking you, you're controlled. Okay? You're controlled. Okay? I mean, when you're out in the public. You know, being told. The fact of the matter is they let Antifa go do things. You had the mayor of Baltimore said, well, let them go destroy part of Boston.
Yeah.
And yet they get on a bus to American citizens who are obeying the law, and they read you the Riot Act. The police stood back when they let what happened go on a couple years ago in Charlottesville. And you have to understand that follows like 5 years of that happening in Europe. 5 years. If you want to understand what's going on here, understand the people attacking you don't give a rat's ass about what your politicians think of Washington. This is a foreign concept that's being brought in through foreign channels, and they've intimidated your elected officials to say, I know I need your vote to get me to do this. But unlike the Democrats who fail because they can't get it done, your elected leaders have no intention of doing it. They have no intention of doing what you want. Because they had a supermajority in the House, they had a majority in the Senate, and they had the executive. Trump should be playing golf every day. He should be done. Who stopped that legislation? Because there was no possibility of the Democrats stopping that. So the main thing about this point that will come into this is it focuses heavily on where the left, it sets up where the left merges with the Islamic movement. This focuses on the left. A paper after it called Warning on Racism, which is not quite this big, really shows how it works, where the left and the Islamic movement merge and interoperate on the hate speech narrative, which is an attack narrative to deprive you of your rights. If you are a woman and you say you're a woman, you're a genderist. Here's a biological fact. You're either a male or a female. Okay?
Right.
To get people to get into the gender argument is to get people to argue a pseudo-reality.
Yep.
It is to force you to say 2 + 2 = 5, okay? And so long as you play the game, you're captured by it. There's no such thing. And you know the people doing this, they know this. But who's allowing it to happen? Who's allowing it to happen? Who has a majority of the... why did the Republicans lose the House? I think it's because they didn't do their job. So the key point of this...
The establishment were kicked out.
The key point of this is in 1935, I go way before that, the Comintern. Who here doesn't know what the Comintern is? The Communist International, run by the Soviet Union, gave orders to penetrate the United States through what we call today the interfaith movement. Saul Alinsky's main point of attack was through the interfaith movement. Okay? Social justice comes out of the interfaith world. Okay? And everybody will want to point about the other religion being guilty of this. Every religion in America, if it's big enough to be important, and if you're not being attacked, that's great. If your denomination's not being attacked, that's great. But that means you don't have numbers that matter. Okay? If you have numbers that matter, and the biggest fight you have in your church is being a big tent, that big tent is to let the antithesis to your thesis of faith get in. And their job is to destroy it. And that's what was accomplished in 1935. Now, just to kind of give you a setup on that, and so I will argue, when you want to talk about interfaith penetration, you have to take it to a higher level than is commonly being discussed here, because all they did was adopt Hegel's concept of a dialectic, which is really not thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Okay, the Islamic movement recognizes, this is why I'm starting here. They understand that Hegel's Christianity was God was undifferentiated act that couldn't know himself. So he superabundantly poured himself into, that was Hegel's logic. And he superabundantly poured himself into nature. That's Hegel's philosophy of nature. And it was so overabundant that he overflowed. And so what happened is God needs man to understand the pieces that overflowed, and as man keeps putting together the pieces, he moves forward in history. Because God needs man to know him. And that is Jesus Christ. Okay? As history moves forward, that is the spirit, the zeitgeist of the day. The reason you're right today, the reason the brand of Christianity or Judaism says we're right today because we're more advanced, is because of course there was the Bible, but that was then. And we're moving forward in history, and God is giving us. So what happens, this is what Islam recognized, okay, is they went from God who exists outside of nature and outside of time, and they put him in his own creation moving forward in history. Okay? So God is only truly manifest at the end of history. Now here's the thing. That can emulate every brand of Christianity you can think of, so much so, they are why you had to be a big tent. They are why you had to be a big tent. But once, and the phrase that was popular is immanentizing the eschaton. Have you ever heard that phrase? It's a $20 term. I always liked it because, but it means God who is absolute outside of time. You know, the theory of Judaism, Christianity, and in fact Islam is that there's a dot in the middle and there's a perfect circle, and the dot in the middle is God, and everybody in the circle is everybody who lived or will live, and God knows them instantly now, because there's no potency in God, right? He's always is. So he knows your great-grandchildren in the same instance he knows your great-grandfather. Okay? Once you destroy that concept of God and make him immanent in the eschaton, meaning now God knows himself most fully at the end of time, what Marx said was we'll kick that stuff out and we'll say we will be more full at the end of history, and we are building scientific socialism, right, to do that. That is what the Islamic movement recognized was going to bring down the West. Has it brought down the West?
Not yet.
Oh, we are no longer talking about saving. We're talking about reconstituting. Okay? And I think it's really important that if you're thinking that they haven't already brought down the tent, you should at least be thinking that way so you can at least back up. Okay? But that means your fight in your own church or synagogue isn't with those other guys, it's those people in that room. It's those people in that room.
Wow.
And then the next thing comes up, whether I'm in a Catholic church, Baptist church, or in a synagogue, the same word comes up in every one of them. But then we'll be, if that happens, we'll be, no, I forgot the word.
It's like 12 syllables.
No, it's a short word. We'll be a,
Love it.
you're a small part.
Particle?
Huh?
Particle?
No, I mean,
Atom?
no.
You're a small part of a community.
The church.
Yeah.
You'll be a,
Or a schismatic or a sect.
no,
or-
not schismatic. But of course you would be schismatic according to how things are going today. The word will come to me and I'll just say it out loud. So, but does that make sense? And so it should be known that that concept of Christianity is the dominant concept of Christianity. Just, and the whole thing of it is, they did it without saying it. Does anybody recognize that?
Yeah, I do.
So here's the thing, when you have people, and I'm not picking on any group, but they're easiest to go after, and I don't mean this in a negative way. What are the people who are very into the Holy Spirit?
Evangelicals?
Pentecostal?
Oh, Pentecostals.
Yeah.
Pentecostal?
I'll say Pentecostal.
Fundamental.
There is a point at which, in that discussion about the Holy Spirit, that really isn't the Holy Spirit anymore. That's Hegel's Holy Spirit. Now the whole thing of it is, this is all made to appear seamless to you. That is what Islam understood and recognized in the 1980s when they joined this movement, realizing that when the left brings everything down, they think they're going to have the workers' paradise, and the Islam understands when that happens, you'll have Venezuela. You'll have Venezuela. And what will happen is there will be lawlessness. How many people know that wherever Islam has taken control of local communities, it's the women who convert first?
Yeah.
And why? Because they want to be safe. Okay? They want to be safe. So it's interesting that the Islamic movement joins the left in destroying anything masculine. Okay?
Would you say that?
Because,
That's why we have the
does that make sense?
No.
So this is a debate. Now and Claire's been there. I have this good presentation I give to these Christian ministers routinely, and for the last 10 times I've given it, 90% of the brief just gets cut out, and it's the part where it says, here's the I am the Lord thy God, you shall know gods before me, and quoting I think 1 John where it says something else, and then you have this is what it says in the New Testament. This is what it says in the Quran. Okay? And your minister who's doing interfaith, by virtue of accepting that, has apostatized because he's denied the Holy Spirit. And the Muslim community knows that.
Yep.
They know that the people who joined the interfaith movement were compromised by virtue of showing up in the meetings. Does that make sense? So, here we go. That's this book right here. There's a paper that comes after it. There's stuff going on. I'd just like to show you this. We're not really going to focus on it. Thank God for the deep state. You don't have to read it. It's just a former deputy director of the CIA said, we should have the deep state. So we're going to talk about the Ikhwan. Who here does not know what the Ikhwan is? Ikhwan is the Muslim Brotherhood. That's the real name. Okay? Ikhwan. Okay? That right there says against and make ready. You'll sometimes see them translate this.
Yeah.
You'll never see them translate that. Against them make ready is a direct reference to Quran verse 860. Against them make ready the strength to the utmost of your power, including steeds of war to strike terror into the hearts of the enemy.
Say that again
Yeah,
slowly.
say that.
Against them make ready your utmost
Your forces.
to, well, we might have a quote here. To the utmost of power, including steeds of war to strike terror into the hearts of the enemy. So, from the beginning, the Muslim Brotherhood front groups retained positive control of the narrative concerning events related to the hijack in San Bernardino. Remember the San Bernardino attack?
Yeah.
Okay, this was a major event, not just because of the event itself, but because this is where the Brotherhood took control of the news reporting that you hear about terrorism in America. Okay, here you had, before the FBI could get up and give their explanation, you had CARE, which came out of Hamas, okay, be on all the major news stations explaining the event. Okay, here, the very next day, here is Loretta Lynch. You see where it says Muslim advocates promoting freedom and justice?
Ay, ay, ay.
Isn't it just like liberty and justice? Can you see? Doesn't it sound like liberty and justice for all? No. Promoting freedom and justice is direct reference to Muslim Brotherhood writing, freedom from the laws of man, justice according to Sharia. Okay?
Wow.
So that's what it means. And here it is, the day after San Bernardino, when a Muslim went to a Christmas party to kill Jews. That she said this was the official Justice Department of the United States vows to prosecute those who make anti-Muslim speech.
Yep.
That edges toward violence. So there was no discussion of going after the killers and the mosque they were in that generated this. It was about telling you, if you talk about this accurately, we're coming after you. Okay, are you being deplatformed on all the social media?
Oh, yes, Facebook jail.
Is the Muslims doing that, or is the left doing it? There's an answer here.
Facebook jail.
But it doesn't matter.
Who's getting you, is the Brotherhood taking you off of Facebook and Twitter? Or is the left taking you off?
The left.
Do you understand?
Oh, I understand.
Okay. So Muslim Brotherhood announces that when they create political parties, they'll be called freedom and justice. So here you have Imam Majid at the Al Dallas Area Muslim Center, who's the head of Islamic Society in North America, and Jay Johnson, the head of DHS, goes to them to have an interfaith commemoration of the shooting.
Yep.
Okay? So if you're a Muslim who immigrated to America to avoid the Brotherhood, wanted to be a law-abiding citizen, you would know that if you knew terror, why don't Muslims report crimes? I think they're all bad. That's not true, by the way. You know why they won't? Because they know Jay Johnson, the head of DHS, and they know the head of the Justice Department has already sided with CARE. And if they go to them, they're, well, let us go to our outreach partners in the community. By the way, Northern Virginia is that on steroids.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
We know.
Yeah, we know. Go to Tyson's Corner.
So, given the close relationship between law enforcement and the Brotherhood front groups, could this help explain why law-abiding Muslims might not choose? Look at CARE telling people, build a wall of resistance, do not talk to the FBI. So here's the thing. If the Muslim Brotherhood considers itself to be the implementers of Islamic law in North America, and they believe that you're talking to the infidel, because that's their language here, and I could get a book of Islamic law and read it to you, okay? Do you think that Muslim takes it like it's some guy just threatening you? Or do you think it's a threat on their life? Do you want to take that chance? So, maybe not so great again after all. I'm only sticking with slides I uploaded in October. But it's going to get bad, because you know what? Here you have USMCO CARE meets with the Turkish ambassadors in 2017. These are Muslim Brotherhood leaders, and to point them out, here's Omesh, right here. Jamal, no, excuse me. Osama Jamal, okay? So, but here again, you have, this is during the Trump administration, he also serves in the State Department Subcommittee on International Religious Freedom.
Who's he?
Osama Jamal.
Secretary General.
And here you have Ambassador Brownback having Jamal right there at the Ministerial to Advance Religious Freedom.
He's the Kansas governor,
Yeah,
or senator,
formerly.
yeah.
Both.
Was.
Former
Now he's
governor.
ambassador
Yeah, oh.
to the United Nations.
Former
Okay.
governor.
Okay.
Oh, he is.
And what party does he belong to?
Republican.
Turning this woman.
Okay. Well, here you have Pompeo appointing Yusuf Hamza, and Hamza was one of the people who was doing disinformation during the Benghazi to be what? The human rights advisor to the State Department's Commission on Inalienable Rights.
In July? Wow.
That's, yes, this is all current. Okay? And then, of course, you have Brownback attending, this is what is the date there? August, this last August, Brownback at the ISNA conference.
Well, you got the Republican governors saying we want more refugees. Like there's 12 Republican governors. They're all saying we want more refugees.
Well, what I talk about when I said controlled opposition?
Right, it's like nobody wants them.
But what that means-
Refugee is not the South America, they're almost.
But the whole point of it is, actually, as a general rule, when you vote Republican, 90% of people who vote Republican are voting for it to stop this.
Right.
Now, here's the thing, and they know it. They don't give a damn about you once they get your vote.
Exactly.
And that's what people have to internalize. The Democrats get mad at their guy because they don't get the job done. What do you say? Oh, they're just cowards. No, they're not cowards. No, they're not cowards. They're doing exactly what they intended to do. What are you going to do about it? Because this is not like one election has happened. You have like 10 election cycles where this has happened. He betrayed me. Maybe not. Maybe you guys are a mark.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a mark. So I know this sounds a little brutal, and I don't mean this to be that way, but it's like, you know, people say they want to save a country, they better start keeping score.
Oh, absolutely.
And as a matter of fact, I don't
Oh my
understand
God,
why you
yes.
did that. I know a congressman who's a committed Baptist, and I'm leaving his name out, and he's taken a lot
That's
of
why I was
heat
adamant
in
against it.
Congress for taking stands. And a newly elected Tea Party guy who came and got elected for being an evangelical Christian went up to him and said, well, I almost gave his name wrong. I prayed to the Holy Spirit before I thought about this. This is day 3 of being newly elected. And the Holy Spirit told me I could flip 180 degrees. And so the congressman, the senior congressman said, well, when did the Holy Spirit tell you to lie? Now, damn it, people need to start thinking that way.
Well, it's like with Barbara Comstock. Okay, she was defeated by Wexton, a Democrat. For however many seconds, I held my nose the first 2 times, and the third time I was like, I don't want to vote for her again.
And
The
there-
pressure, the pressure that was like people, you have to vote for her. Look who's going to get in if she loses, the Democrat. I'm like, I don't care.
Well, and here's why political warfare analysis needs to be put in there. Once you voted for it's as good as it gets, they're inside the matrix.
That's right.
And they're gonna hold the position until the next person comes along. Oh, and it also happens that Comstock was working with the Brotherhood.
Oh, I know.
But
Like,
less
day
so,
one.
right?
From day
Yeah,
one.
So my
that
point is,
center.
so whose fault is it the 5th time they know their Congress
But
election that
many people don't
happens?
know.
So
She
what
was
can you
from
do?
day
Does
one.
that put Daniel Gage
I mean, I think
with
you
the
have to
one
like,
leg?
I'm not gonna tell you what to do because I'm a 501.
You know, would he do this
But I do
too?
think people have to start getting, I'm not
Hopefully
saying
he
violent,
knows this and
but just a
they-
little bit more not understanding of their congressmen when they lie to them.
But, no, I
And
don't
not,
think so.
I mean,
Well, I have Barbara Comstock on speed dial. I put all the Congress senators I want to talk to, they're right in my phone. So when I get a bug up my butt, I'm boom, right there. I don't have to look their phone number up, it's
So-
right in here.
so, I mean, I can send you the program. So here we have it. Here you have TASC, Turkish American Steering Committee. And he talks about the fact he wants to bring the Ummah together. Here you have Erdogan in the United States. This is just a couple months ago, September. There's Nihat Awad. There's Osama Jamal, okay? At a dinner with Erdogan.
And Trump
Oh,
knows
here we go
this,
back to
right?
2016. Here's Erdogan again in the United States. Here's Nihat Awad.
Ay, ay, ay.
Here's Jamal.
Under
Yeah,
Obama.
okay? So you could you could kind of suspect maybe the Turks have some type of pull on the Brotherhood of America. They certainly do everywhere else in the world. Okay? So, well, here you have Governor, or Vice President Pence, and he brings Jamal, and here's the secret. It's such a secret, you have to work really hard. You have to sign up for his Twitter account, where he's taking all the pictures of him in the White House, being brought in by the Vice President with Pompeo.
Pence can't be trusted.
No.
So how many people think I just dropped a bomb on them? Okay? It's happening in broad daylight, right before your eyes. Okay?
And what do we do
So
about
here's
it?
CARE.
What do we do about it?
Here's CARE operating through the Interfaith Forum. Well, I think the first thing you have to do, and this briefing is not about what do you do. This brief is about
Open your
it's
eyes.
bad, and you need to open your eyes. And you need to say, it was so important for you to go out and vote for what I believed in when you said you're going to do that, that I'm not prepared to hear you say anything about how you couldn't do it. because they have no intention of doing it.
That's right.
That's what you have to get your mind around. Now, I'm not a Republican, by the way.
And I understand, and I don't mean to keep interrupting, okay, but so for example, this, you know, these organizations, Catholic organizations, bringing in refugees, bringing in, they get money for this stuff.
Those funds got cut, but let me be very clear about this. The reason you look at how Catholic Charities brings it in is because they're the biggest organization, but all the
They're all
religious
doing it.
organizations are
right,
doing
right,
it.
right.
And they're all bringing in the same percentage volume.
So like today, I went to the grocery store. I've stopped giving to the charities for like the backpack, I used to do it, and I started realizing the more we're doing that, the more we're creating a magnet for more of them to come here, right? And
It's a
there's
job to
They're
them.
coming here
It's
as, they're coming
It's
here.
a job for
they're-
them.
Look, they're coming here has nothing to do with what you just said. It has nothing to do with that,
Wow.
okay? It's a lot bigger than that, and that's not this brief.
Okay.
But I think it's really important to understand that those emigres coming in here, it's not an accident that they target Michelle Bachmann's district,
Exactly.
okay? It's not an accident,
right.
okay? That's as far as I'll go.
Republican
But
district.
But that's a whole different
What they
brief,
did
and
is
it's
change.
one that people have to sit down, and they have to make it, you know, the hard part about this paper on re-remembering the left is you have to make a decision to understand what's in there, and it's not easy. I had a hard time understanding it. So again, everybody has to read it 3 times. I had to write it 50 times before I got it right. Go ahead.
Well, it's already happened in Europe.
It's already happening here.
England,
It's here.
yeah, but it's happening, it happened quicker there.
It started earlier there.
Earlier.
Yeah, but they're already in control of England and in the rest of Europe.
They are
And-
here too.
Oh, they
I would
are.
say they're not in control of England, but I would say they're in control of the major cities,
Yeah,
urban centers.
Not Poland
Well,
though.
London, that's the banking center
Well,
of the West.
I'm not gonna say they're in control of anything, I mean, that's an assessment.
but it all happens quicker there, I think.
I think people realize how quickly it's happening here.
Oh, yeah, I think it's happening quickly, yeah, I think you're right, yeah.
But the difference is, the US still has the ability to reverse it with a low level of dislocation, whereas in Europe, it will lead to a civil war.
Okay, so what, the jihadis that just shot in Florida.
But,
You can't talk.
what,
It's another brief.
Okay.
okay. So here's the Interfaith Forum, here's Karen operating for the Interfaith Forum. Here they are saluting these
Oh,
women.
yeah, God.
By the way, she is a Marxist. Did you know that?
Yes.
Who?
Italy.
Italy.
So here you have Pompeo threatening to saying he's brought sanctions against China for going after the Uyghurs.
Uyghurs.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, don't get me wrong. Whatever the human rights violations, I'm all for enforcing it. But you know, what does that got to do with anything on U.S. foreign policy? So here you have Erdogan meeting with Milan. Okay. And here you have the pro-Turkey lobby working inside the White House. Okay, it's very big. So there is something about Turkey here. I like that. Something about Mary, something about Turkey. I liked it. I chuckled when I made it. Everybody's supposed to think, oh. So,
No, I'm fine.
what if Turkey actually controlled the Muslim Brotherhood in America? That would mean a sovereign, non-U.S. nation would have operational control of an element that is already committed to subversion in the United States. Okay? What if Turkey, it's not really too big in this brief, is actually aligned with Qatar? Okay? Actually aligned with Iran. So that when you see Soleimani get killed, every one of them shows up in Iran. We support you. CARE says they're going to go to the border to help Iranians on the border at the very time we're hearing that cartel members are bringing IRGC types up through the border. Wouldn't it mean that at the time that Turkey was doing something like signing basing agreements 15 miles away from U.S. Central Command headquarters in Doha, signing basing agreements with Qatar, has sent thousands of ISIS and Syrian Muslim Brotherhood into Libya and now send combat troops, is now in Syria, that maybe if we play our cards wrong, you're going to see a mass infusion. I'm saying this, it's out there, I get that, But I think a lot of stuff that's gonna be considered out there today might not be considered out there after it happens. They're positioned to retake the Ottoman Empire, okay? And does he say he wants to do that? Yes. Did the Brotherhood of America declare him their leader? Yes. Did they declare him the head of the Ummah? Yes, the Muslim community. Did the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, declare Erdogan the head of the Ummah? Yes. Okay. Is he positioned to do that? We don't know what he'll do. Yes. Okay. Is our State Department establishment working with the very people who would blind us to what would be a catastrophic turn of events? What would happen? What would happen if that happened? So,
Period.
oh, thanks. Am I spinning? I learned at some point in my life that if someone offers me a mint, that I have to take it. No, that's okay. No, take it. So anyhow, there is some stuff going on. I like to point out, our country is completely distracted, 100% distracted by this impeachment. Okay? Where we have Turkey on the move, where we have Iran doing things, where we have Antifa doing things, where we have the Brotherhood, Muslim Brotherhood working with the SPLC at the nonviolent level, while ISIS is lining up with groups like Antifa. So Turkey could throw an event over there. You could see protests in San Francisco by Antifa and not know that they were actually coordinated events. Am I saying that everything you see on the street is going to be that way? No. But if you understand how political warfare works, the first couple months of stuff happening, everything's going to seem isolated and separate from each other. That's design. Okay? Well, Steve, back in the day when I was in the military, you had to attack a country, and the country had to attack back. 99% of the history of warfare doesn't work that way. So it's really important. So, the bottom line up front, this is Erdogan and the AKP. This is just, they're claiming successor status of the Ottoman Empire. They've taken leadership role of the OIC as Ummah, are recognized by the MB as leaders of the Ummah. Don't worry, because we're going to go through each one of these data points. And I call it two lazy W's.
What is the AKP?
That's Erdogan's party in Turkey, which is Brotherhood-like. Okay.
Wow. Just
Okay. So Bluff. Who here was in the military? Bluff. Bottom line up front. Lazy W. A standard infantry formation. You line up in a lazy W. Each person in a lazy W. Why? Because infantry, when the enemy's coming, don't fire straight. They fire diagonally. So that when the fires go out, there's interlocking fires. So infantry, so the first lazy W will be these slides I'll show. Because I'm going to show the slides. The second, well, that will be Erdogan and the AKP. The second lazy W will be Erdogan, the AKP, and the DNet. Who here has never heard of the DNet? Well, stop. Who here has heard of the DNet?
Yeah, just the word.
Okay. You've just heard of it?
Anything about it, just the word.
Okay. Very interesting.
I haven't heard of it.
You'll have nightmares about this.
I don't know that much about it.
Okay. So here's an article. This is, by the way, I want to show you that this is not ancient history. President Erdogan, the Turkish Republic, is a continuation of the Ottoman Empire. Steve, they don't actually think they're going to reclaim the Ottoman Empire. Do you think? I said, oh. You know, well, we'll see. I think I might have a slide in here. Not just a claim, July 2014, the same powers as the Ottoman. They had a referendum where they gave Erdogan what? The same powers as the Sultan in the Ottoman Empire.
Independence Day.
So, here you have, this is 2018, and he goes to the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Who here does not know who the OIC is? Okay, the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. It is the second largest intergovernmental organization in the world, second only to the United Nations. It is run when they have summits by all the heads of states of all the 57 member states of the Islamic world. When they get together at the head of state level, they declare themselves to be the Ummah. Okay? When they declare themselves to do that, they can pass laws that become binding. Now, it's a totally different series of briefs when I was briefing inside the government. People really want to know this. How that carries forward so they maintain two parallel foreign policies. One that you read about, And the one they execute through the OIC, that's all crazy Muslim stuff, we don't have to read that stuff, which is actually what they are doing, okay? Because if you are an organization that's Islamic and you believe in Islam and you declare that in your mission statement, and Islamic law is the way things should go, and Muslims are, when you get right down to it, supposed to think that, right? Then we should expect that when the OIC meets at the head of state level and they all agree on something, they say this will be a law, that it is the law. Well, yeah, but they don't really believe in Islamic law. Well, yes, they do. And they think it's more important than your law, which, by the way, they say they're going to destroy. Okay? So he got the OIC, every Muslim country, to declare him the head of the Ummah. Now, here's what happened. Well, Steve, just because the Brotherhood of America said that doesn't mean they mean it. And you know what? That's the first thing they'll say when confronted. And you know what? That might be true. But what will happen when everybody's reading the history books, oh, did anything? They'll say, yes, we did declare it. Here's the thing. The left and groups like the Muslim Brotherhood are the masters of binary language. They always have an off-ramp for what they said. It's easier for you to understand and more palatable for you to believe. And they can step away from it if they want to. You need to always score, if you're a lawyer, if you're a lawyer reading legislation, here's the trick. Okay, we're passing a law to say X, and everybody knows that's what it means. So we're to pass X. Don't tell me these crazy things. And you say, can somebody 20 years from now interpret that law to mean X? Yes. Well, then that's what it means. That's what it means. Every one of your legislature who tells you that's just, there's no such thing really in law as fine print. Everything in law that's there is there for a reason. Okay? It's just, you know, I'm trying to think of the other word, what they have for law. I'm a lawyer by training. I have a master's in strategic intelligence. I was a trained tactical intelligence officer. So, both of them works that way. So here you have the OIC recognizing that he's the head of the Ummah. So it's not just that he claims it. When an extraordinary summit is formed, it is all the heads of states of the Islamic world that constitutes the Ummah. A term DHS, under Republicans, Judge Chertoff said we weren't allowed to use the word Ummah because it's a religious word. Well, but when all the Muslim countries are together at the head of state level, they declare themselves the Ummah. And you're telling us we can't analyze that? So, we see this again. You got to watch Turkey. He's in America here. Here's Osama Jamal. There's some other people here. Other people. So here at the MAS ICNA conference in 2017, okay, in Chicago, Illinois, yes. Here is Erdogan giving a speech to all the brothers, and he's got that symbol there. Who here does not know what that means?
Say it again.
Erdogan has that bronze on his desk that's this. Who here does not know what that means?
I should stop asking that.
Well, let me tell you something. If someone went like that, you know what it means, right?
Right.
The whole world knows that Americans don't understand the symbolism of events. He's got the modern Muslim Brotherhood logo, the Rabia. And it says, I think I have a bigger one here. Usually I have a bigger screen, I just leave that writing.
Isn't that Heil Hitler too?
So, here you go. No to Arabism, no to secularism, no to nationalism, no to democracy. Isn't that exactly what the left is about?
Wow.
Think about that.
Wow.
Why does Muslim Brotherhood work with the hard left? Because they agree with the same, they have a common enemy, and they really just agree with the same thing. Yes to the caliphate. Well, that's what the left disagrees with. But they're willing to go along with people to do that. So remember this glyph? Against them make ready the utmost to your power, including steeds of war, to strike terror into the hearts of the enemy, and your enemy as well. Blah, blah, blah. Here's the motto of the Brotherhood. Allah is our objective, the Prophet is our leader, the Quran is our law, Jihad is our way, dying in the way of Allah is our highest hope. And yet you had Pence bring him into the White House just a couple months ago. You had Pompeo make a imam with Brotherhood leanings, the head of, what is it, human rights?
Religious freedom.
Religious freedom.
Yeah.
So here's a guy at the State Department. Here's Mohammed Ali Bieri at the time, who was at DHS. Okay, they're all giving the Rabia symbol. By the way, that symbol is in his picture. Okay? So here you have the little Mutlu, and Halil Mutlu is
Cousin of Erdogan.
the cousin of Erdogan, who runs TASC in America, Turkish American Steering Committee, and he's right in front of the White House with all the Muslim brothers there, and Halil Mutlu, director of the Turkish American Steering Committee. As we said before, Al-Quds, which is the name of Jerusalem for Muslims. As we said before, Al-Quds is our red line. 80 million Turks and millions of Christians, Jews, and Muslims around the world are against Trump's decision. We love Turkish people and President Erdogan. He is the true leader of the Muslims, and we want all Muslim leaders to show solidarity for Palestine and Jerusalem. Mutlu was introduced, and what you have here is the Brotherhood coming back and said, yes, yes, Al-Quds. And they basically went on and said, Hello, brother is actually the brother of the President of Turkey. We get it. Now, here's the OIC charter, and everything they do that's translated into English is in what's called facially neutral language. Facially neutral language is a legal term. It's when you say something really harsh but neutral language, and you have a guy who talks like this in neutral language, and you don't understand that when he just read the sentence to you, he said something. If you stopped and really listened to what he said, it would be something like, we're going to kill you. Okay? Facially neutral language. To safeguard, this is the Charter, Article 38 from 2008, to safeguard the rights, dignity, and religious and cultural identity of Muslim communities and minorities in non-Muslim states. What did they just say there? They said they're claiming jurisdiction over Muslims inside the United States. And who is the control mechanism for that? The Muslim Brotherhood in the United States. Who's taken operational control of them? Turkey. Who has strategic control? Persian Gulf states. That's where the money comes from. Okay? So here we're back